Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'll call this listening session of the Bloomington City Council to order tonight. We got two folks who called ahead of time. Kent Miller, very good, and Sally. So, Kent, why don't we start with you? Come on up. You haven't been here, all the way up here, if you could, to the microphone, and if you could sign in. So the way we do this, we generally just break it down by number of people with the time breakdown.
Okay.
Because it's only the two of you. We limit it to 10 minutes per person. So,
Okay.
and just to let you know, we'll listen to what you have to say, but it's going to be a back and forth. Folks will have questions.
All right.
All right.
For email address, do you want both? Either?
Email is fine.
Okay.
We can find you.
I emailed in. That's like, well, you know,
Told us to begin with.
I did.
That's what he meant to say.
We can find you.
Again,
It's a matter of public record.
it is. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Having these sessions, I really appreciated it. I had no idea these things happened at all. I thought it was just the city council meeting and everyone just like went into the auditorium and was like, all right, this is happening. So it's nice to actually get to sit down and chat at you about my feelings about what's happening in the city. I feel like overall, I've lived here for 8 years, 2014, moved up here with my wife, went to the U, lived here in Bloomington, first in an apartment, then both houses I've owned have been in Bloomington. So long time, long-ish. I mean, there are people who've lived here like 60 years. So I wouldn't say long time, but
Average is about 10 now, though, right?
oh, so I'm getting close to the average. That's good. Yeah.
Soon to be above average.
Yeah. Yeah. So saw in the mail the flyer about the Old Cedar and 86 or 86 and 98th reconstruction. So I wanted to come in and give my feedback about how I feel the streets are designed in Bloomington. So I feel like overall, the traffic flows great if you're driving. I feel like it's very easy to get anywhere in a car. I feel like the lights are sequenced well. There's like a lot of considerations obviously gone into getting people around in cars. And like I felt like that the whole time I've lived here, and I feel like the city's consistently tried to improve that mode of transportation. I had my daughter, she's 3 now, and starting to learn how to like get onto a bike. Not very confident yet, but we live on a cul-de-sac, so it's very reassuring that there's not a lot of traffic. But it's very aggravating to me that if we go out onto a main street, it feels very unsafe. And I feel like the safety aspect of a non-auto user could be improved upon as far as getting around the city. So like for leisure, there's tons of options for driving to somewhere and feeling safe inside of a park. Like Highland, it's a great park, like great infrastructure. I feel like that's a fantastic job with having parks everywhere and they're all reachable. And usually there's like always, there's one you can reach on foot, which I do. I live right by Olson Middle Elementary School. And I have walked there with my daughter and it feels kind of safe-ish. There are sidewalks, that's good. There's a lighted crosswalk, that's good. But there's also, it's a 4-lane road with a 35, I think 35. People drive like it's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's a very wide road. And I've seen people going very quickly. I've seen people taking corners into and out of neighborhoods because the roads have high speed limits. So it feels like people want to go in and out quickly so they can match with traffic and drive safely in traffic. And I feel like because there's not a lot of pedestrians, people don't often think like, oh crap, there's going to be someone coming out in front of me and I need to be careful. And I've been behind the wheel and had that very same experience and scared myself like, oh, I need to think about this because it's just something that I don't feel like drivers think about. And the way that roads are designed makes it easy to drive very quickly, even inside of neighborhoods. Like my neighborhood has very wide streets. It's very easy to drive very quickly down. So I wanted to give that feedback to the city that I would like to see the geometry of roads be changed, like not all at once, that'd be like insanely expensive. But with reconstruction projects like the Old Cedar and 98th, actually right by where I live, I don't really understand exactly what's going on. I think there's lanes being added, or like the way the lanes are laid out is being changed at Normandale and 98th, right by the college. So the geometry of the road is changing. And that's actually, I went on a bike ride with my wife. I never learned to ride a bike as a kid, which people are like, oh my God, that's weird. And it is like kind of weird. Like almost everyone learns to ride a bike as a kid. So as an adult, now I have a daughter. I don't want to be teaching her how to ride and not know myself. So I've been learning how to ride in the same cul-de-sac where we're teaching her. And I've been riding for the past couple of months. And as a test, I wanted to ride down France because there is like actually a really nice bike path that's great, separated off the road. It's not an on-street bike lane that I don't think I would ever ride down, at least not with my current level of skill. It's just too scary with cars flying by at like 40 miles an hour. So I went on that bike path with my wife, who's ridden her whole life. She grew up in Mexico City. And so she would ride around like the neighborhoods. She like ride around town. She's very comfortable on a bike. And she said that by herself, it's fine, like she can manage it. But if we wanted to replace one of our cars with commuting by bike to like get groceries, take our daughter to her daycare school, it's in Bloomington, it's like 3 miles away. It's too scary. And so that's the kind of feedback I wanted to give back to the city council when you're consulting with whoever is designing the roads, that you ask them politely, like, hey, we know that getting people everywhere in cars safely is important, but also consider that there are people outside of cars that we really need to be taking into consideration and not just making it easier and faster because the speed is what kills. I think it's fairly well known.
I appreciate your comments and appreciate your feedback, Kent. I really do. And I will say it's a conversation we've had and probably continue to have in a lot of different ways. We just allocated some of our funds from last year to try and do a study to try and figure out the best ways to slow people down in the city, to make it safer. Because you're right, speed kills. And there was just an article, I think, last week in the Star Tribune about the level of speeding in cities and how it's just out of hand. And so that's one issue. The second issue, yes, facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists in Bloomington. Because of when the city was designed and grew up, it's surprising to me the lack of sidewalks in the city, the lack of bike or pedestrian amenities in the city. And it's something we consistently hear from folks, that we need more of that. And we need to be more thoughtful and proactive about how to make that available to people for every reason that you just mentioned,
And I've noticed you guys have done it because I actually had, when I first moved here, a map that was like the cycling and like getting around the city out of a car. And there were like a lot of on-street cycleways and a couple off-street. And then I pulled up, because that was 8 years ago, pulled up with the new map, and there's a lot more there. So kudos for that. Like,
We just like tape that.
but I don't want to come in here and be like, do more. I want to appreciate, like, I know that everyone's trying to like do their best, and that it's like Bloomington does just live in a like, isolated shell.
So we had, for years, we had what we called the Alternative Transportation Plan, ATP. We've changed the A now. It's the Active Transportation Plan. Julie Long was in our engineering department. Could you just talk where that is in terms of its development and what some of the considerations that are being considered?
Sure. We have, as the mayor has indicated, an active transportation plan. We actually got a grant from MnDOT for that. And so we'll be looking at building out more of our our system of other modes of traffic. We call them multimodal. So whether you're a bike or a ped, or if you want to ride a scooter, different things besides the automobile. So we'll be working on that starting this fall and into next spring. So you'll also see council has been gracious enough to give us some additional funding to do some outreach with the community. So we'll be doing that. We also do have a neighborhood traffic study that the mayor mentioned that is coming up soon. We're going to council next week under organizational business to make sure that what we think of as staff is the scope is what council thinks as the scope is. So we'll be looking for that. And we're also Planning Commission also echoes your concern about street widths and what have you. We were just there on Thursday, giving them an update with our pavement management program and explained to them our current standard is a 32-foot wide street. Prior to the 2002, it was a 36-foot wide street. Unfortunately, right now in Bloomington, depending on your perspective, we have 14 miles of non-curb streets left. So we have 14 miles that we can rebuild to a narrower footprint. And we are going to be asking one of the neighborhoods that's programmed for next year's pavement management program, do you want it narrower? But we have 340 miles of streets already in things. So 14 miles is a drop in the bucket. So then we would have to ask council, is this a strong enough priority and taxpayers that you're willing to put money towards narrowing those streets?
Right.
So we'll be doing a lot more outreach and trying to find the right solution for the entire community.
Okay. So we're right at time here. Anybody quick questions or comments that you want to throw in?
No, just, I'm gonna make sure I have your name for when this comes back again. We get you on public comment and all these other
Yeah.
things as this stuff goes on, because I know I speak for several of the folks on council. There are many places where this has come up, and a good comprehensive program that takes into account that many people want to be in a mode of transportation that's not a single, person automobile, is very much understood here. So
Okay. Ken, thank you for coming in.
really,
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I did.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sally, good evening.
So
So I'm going to read what I sent everybody. So I provided a couple examples of inaccurate information at the last meeting. And tonight I continue with a focus on the entrance to show the work the city did to keep the entrance that was there, the current entrance, the one that we have lit, that is now an exit, to keep the entrance compared to later when the Darl Fruc when they needed a new entrance to increase the already overused and non-compliant property. Again, a council member commented, there was work done on the parking lot to improve. When the work done was to address the traffic from 8201 Park, and data indicated it increased the value of 8201 Park. Another council member incorrectly stated Darl Fruc would be under no obligation to pay for any of the driveway normally, when data indicates Darl Fruc was to pay for the driveway. Council makes decisions based on information provided by staff, and that information should be accurate, and it is not. Originally, there were two entrances constructed on XL property. The north entrance was included in a previous shared agreement that stated regardless of which party, the city or LHSA, the Lutheran High School, acquires the property, the owner shall provide an easement. There was a draft of a deed of easement dated 2011, yet an email from staff to the former city attorney dated January 23rd, 2013 stated, politically, I think it may be helpful for the agreements to call out why the city is paying for the meter. The sentence could start with something along the lines, in exchange for a permanent easement over AFYFC property to access the northerly Smith parking lot. A draft of a deed of easement indicates the city knew there should already be an easement. The city knew there should be an easement, and yet the city council study meeting, January 2nd, 2012, park staff informs the council of the impact of the city canceling, terminating, or letting the current agreement expire. He said if the city needed to construct a new access from Park Avenue to the Northwest Smith Park parking lot, it could cost approximately $20,000. Parks should not have provided council with the cost to construct a new entrance unless Parks wanted a new entrance, which Parks did not. An email dated December 27, 2012 concerns the updating of the AFYFC joint use agreement that was supposed to be updated by September 1st, 2011. States that the executive director of AFYFC would like the easement that is part of the agreement removed. On January 16, 2013, there is an update to the Smith Park AFYFC agreement that calculates the value of the easement as AFYFC will likely seek compensation for granting the easement. The estimated cost of constructing the driveway, the entrance, is $29,580. Council is being provided the cost for a new entrance when instead council should have been informed the current agreement requires AFYFC to provide an easement. The city should not have spent time and money on calculating the cost of a new entrance when the agreement at the time requires an easement to be provided. In a memo from Parks to the mayor and city council dated October 10th, 2013, it states DAF has not yet agreed to provide the driveway easement across their property. It was over 2 years later and the city should have already had the easement, and staff is reporting DF is not agreeing to provide the easement instead of stating DFS is required to provide the easement. The memo from the Parks Department dated October 10th, 2013 to the mayor and city council continues. DF will provide a permanent easement over DF property for vehicular access to the northwest parking lot. In exchange, the city shall install a water meter for the football irrigation system and exterior water fountain, estimated value $3,250. This has the city agreeing to pay $3,250 to obtain an easement it should have already had. At another city council meeting dated July 28, 2014, access easement is still being discussed almost 3 years later, and an easement still has not been executed as required by the existing agreement. And I did not see data from staff working to get the easement that should have been already executed. The existing agreement should have been enforced, as noted by the former city attorney, who stated those agreements are on record with Hennepin County. They carry forward to the current user. As a question in the email sent to the mayor and council August 19, 2022, what action can be expected if the city does not state what has been and is happening? As I stated in the last listening session, what actionable steps can the city take? The city can begin by providing council with accurate information. Then council could state what has happened. Then the city could provide council with actionable steps to address the concerns.
So we're at the same topic, the same issue that we've been talking about all along here. These were decisions 10, 11 years ago. You talk, much of your language there was council should have. Well, the council did. You didn't agree with it. You believe they should have done one thing. Obviously, the staff, the council, the mayor, the legal team, what they did, they believed it was a correct path. So again, asking about what you need, what you're looking for from this council. I mean, are you asking that we undo the deed or start over again or provide reparations, or what are we asking here?
The current council voted to include a new entrance to the Smith Park parking lot. We have two council members making comments that it was for the Smith Park. It wasn't for the Smith Park, and I need the city to know and recognize that. One saying that.
But we do know your opinion, Sally. We have heard your, we know,
that was,
recognize your opinion. That doesn't make it.
That's not.
That doesn't make it, I mean, that's.
Data states it was for the benefit of the building. That is what the data stated. And the data also stated they were sure they were supposed to pay for it. And then during the meeting, during the actual city council hearing, it was the mayor that suggested that the city pay for half of it. Just said we should pay for half of it. That's how it went down. It needs to be accurate. But going back to the beginning, we had a staff not telling the council at the time we had an easement. Why was our staff providing numbers for making a new entrance when we had an easement? That easement.
Sally, without that staff sitting around this table, I can't ask them that, can I?
Well,
Can anyone?
the city manager,
Not the staff at the time.
the city manager at the time.
You said going back, you were reading from 2013.
I was reading the
2013.
easement part when the agreement went into effect. He was the city manager. I was saying to him, we are supposed to have the easement. Why isn't that language being
Sally, the
clear?
frustration here, we keep having this same discussion. This is like Groundhog Day. We're going.
But there is, I mean, so I want to, not related to anything that you talked about tonight. You did send us an email this week that showed pictures of just this week Or why aren't we talking about that? Because that's
But because-
current in action,
Yeah.
right?
And we aren't, you're right. Yeah, and that's what I thought we were going to be talking about, to be honest, tonight.
I sent this and told everyone I was reading this tonight.
Yeah.
Also sent pictures of people parking on the street and you said they shouldn't be parking on the street.
But I said specifically, I was reading this tonight.
I want, yes, Councilmember Martin.
And Sally, just for, because I was one of the folks and it
Right.
mistakenly said that they didn't need to pay for it.
Okay, that's the first time you've said mistakenly said.
I said I may have.
Oh, may have.
To be clear, I advocated for the entrance and the island because you and I had a conversation, to my recollection, that you were nervous about so many little kids having to walk through an active parking lot at Dar Al Farouk to get to Smith Park. So regardless of what any of the legal stuff says going back, and I'll review your documentation, I'm glad it's there from a safety measure. And I think you raised a very good point. We need an entrance directly off of Park to Smith Park. I think you brought a story about taking your grandkids over there on bikes, and why do we have to go through a private property to get there? So I'm glad we built it. I'm glad we put the island in. The rest of that, I'm not entirely sure. Explain.
Know the history of what had happened. But go back to our conversation. When I sat down, I understood our conversation was you were going to address the building and the increasing of the activity. We'll get you a crosswalk, great, but I didn't know our conversation meant that you were going to support increasing the activity at Dar Al Farouk. The school increased, the activity level, like the gymnasium was 80 at a time to, it changed. Okay, they were supposed to have, the numbers for the weekend were 80 students, and then it ended up being 80 students at a time. After our conversation, the building increased exponentially, and I was shocked. And the reason we needed all of this extra stuff was exponential increase. I thought our conversation, when I met with you and I was so relieved, it was like, yes, that place is busy. I hear you. And yes, we're working on a crosswalk. And it's like,
I think you misinterpreted my.
At the time, I'm going to let Jamie jump in. Jamie? Yeah.
I want to clarify something, Sally, because I'm reading through what you said and listening to what you said. When you say there's data that indicates Dar Al Farouk was to pay for the driveway,
yeah,
and then I read the rest of it saying that the city should have had the easement, not paid for the easement.
right.
The easement is different than constructing the driveway. So just getting the easement is just the right for the city to go over their property. It doesn't commit them to pay for the construction of the driveway.
So the current driveway that was there we have lit, we put our, we pay to light it. We are the ones that light it. That was the entrance for Smith Park. Goes like this and goes like that. This whole area was XL property. And then they came and said they wanted to purchase that property.
We're past time now.
Okay, all right.
10 minutes. Thanks, Sally.
Right.
Conflating one thing for the other.
Yes. Council, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Are adjourned.